Hello, welcome to the Real Estate Regroup Show. I am your host, LJ Walker, a real estate investor helping you realize your dream of owning a home or investing in one. Well, today we're going to continue to talk about COVID-19. There's been a number of new developments and, yes, some controversy. So let's get into it. All right, as many of you know, there has been a new bill that was passed. So let me give you the breakdown of my interpretation of what that bill says. In addition, just so that you know, I do have a YouTube channel called the Real Estate Regroup Show, and I will be putting the link to the bill in the description of that channel. All right, let's get into it. So the new law says that any residential building that is 1 to 4 family and carries a federal mortgage can get forbearance for 120 days without showing any proof. Otherwise, if the building is 5 units and over with an FHA, it has to document that it needs forbearance. Their forbearance will only be for 30 days and it will be before the 15th of the month. That's when they have to submit the papers. Okay. No fees will be applied, but interest may continue. Your credit is not going to be reported if you are late during the crisis. If you were late before the crisis, it will be though. Okay. If a homeowner applies for forbearance, the tenants can't get kicked out even after the time is allotted. Okay. There is also assistance for those who are in public housing. The way they have that set up is different. Go through the bill yourself and you'll see, or contact 211.org or 311 if you are in New York City. Now, for private homeowners who have a regular mortgage or who have no mortgage, things are a bit different. Okay. If you are current on your mortgage or rent, then no, you will not be reported to the credit agencies. You will not be evicted as well. Okay. Now, here's where there's been some controversy, where I've seen some contradiction, and my opinion is going to be pulled from Section 103 of the bill. In Section 103, it says that there will be no extra interest to be applied on any non-payment of the mortgage during this time. There will be no extra fee, no lawsuit, no repossession or foreclosure, and no garnishment of wages to private homeowners. Okay. In addition, tenants who live in buildings that do not have FHA can apply for rental assistance grants. Okay. In addition, there are grants that are being given to Native Americans and Alaskans. There is an institute in which they can contact, or they can contact their local state. In addition, there's homeless assistance grants that's being given. There are housing grants for the elderly. They probably have to go to the Department of Aging for that. There's also going to be extra for those who are disabled who are on Section 811, and for homeowners who rent to people with Section 8, there will be a renewal for those whose Section 8 vouchers are about to be expired. Also, the hardest hit funds has been reestablished, and you can get that from the State Housing Finance Agency. Please, everybody, I want you to apply, especially if you qualify for these funds, because there seems to be a certain set time limit, And if you don't apply, the states are required to return the unused funds back to the federal government. Okay. Next, let's talk about these stimulus checks that has everybody so excited or wrapped up. Well, it's been touted, oh, everybody's going to get $1,200. No, not true. If you owe back child support, you are not getting a stimulus check. If you have not filed taxes last year or the year before, you will not get a stimulus check. Also, the amount that they mentioned, that $1,200, no, if you make a certain amount, you're going to get less than that. Okay, especially if you have no children. Next thing about the stimulus check that many of you may know is, unfortunately, there are already scams and there are already other companies that are using it as a marketing ploy to get you to open up the letter. Please verify everything before you try and cash any check that says stimulus on it. Okay? Next, homeowners. I'm going to talk to you again. I know that a lot of you are trying to refinance because you heard that the rates are down. Listen, the rates that they mentioned were for one bank to loan money to another bank. It was not for people who have a mortgage. So please do not refinance if the points is not two points below what your mortgage is currently. Look into that first. You may be better off just taking out a home equity, right? You may also, if you have credit cards and you have good credit, think about drawing out lines of credit. In addition, up your insurance on lost rent coverage. So this way, if your tenants are not able to pay, you're going to still be covered. How you want to handle your tenants is really up to you. There are people who have waived the late fee. There are people who apply a percentage of the security deposit. It's completely up to you what you work out with your tenants. There's no law regulating anything right now when it comes to that, particularly those of you who live in private buildings. But many states have it where there's no eviction. As a matter of fact, I think the bill says that there will be no evictions during this time, whether it's even for the private sector. Okay. Now, for those of you who want to buy a home, as mentioned before, the loan process has changed because many of us are working from home, and then there are those who are not working at all. The verification of employment has changed. Why? Human resources for some companies is not open anymore. They're either working from home or they're not working, period. So what they are going to require, of course, is that you probably show like a W-2 or some other timesheet or of some sort to show that you are employed with a particular company. Now, if you get laid off and during the process of you trying to buy a home, just be mindful that they are being lenient and they are being understanding, particularly for those of you who've been in the same field or on the same job for a long time, like more than 2 years. Okay. Next, the other thing that they're looking for is they're looking for you to put down more money, have more money in reserves, and also, if you are already a homeowner, more equity. Credit scores for many of the big banks, the requirements have gone down a little. However, if you're going to get an FHA loan or if you're going with the small banks, no, the FICO score that they require is going to be the same. There have been some loan programs that have been discontinued for those who are investors. Those loans, those QM loans, I never used them, don't understand them, so I'm not going to get into it, right? Next, We are seeing now that in some areas, sellers are offering to pay closing costs, which is wonderful. And another thing that you're going to see soon is that there are going to be sellers who are going to do subject twos. Subject twos are normally, not always, but they're normally somebody who inherited property that they don't want. Financially, they're not able to keep up that property that they live in plus the property that they inherited. So they want somebody to just take over the mortgage. You can do that. It's perfectly legal as long as you get the right attorney to assist you with that, okay? But I will tell you this, regardless, closings are taking a lot longer, particularly in states that have already been under the quarantine and lockdown, because a lot of the government offices are closed. Here where I'm at, some government offices are still open. They're just working remotely from home. But there are states where people are not even working from home. So it's going to take longer for your deeds to be recorded and for title to be transferred to you, as I mentioned before in a previous episode. Okay, next, for those of you who still are able to get out there, and your city is not on lockdown, and you're probably worried, suppose the house that I'm looking at, the seller has COVID. Well, here's what I've heard. If the seller dies in the house, the real estate agent is required by law to disclose that information. But if they die outside of the house, then that would violate HIPAA rules. So what you can do to sort of like get around that is ask the seller or a real estate agent, why is it that this person wants to sell? It couldn't hurt. Now, I'm not a scientist. I've heard that, even if a person dies, the virus does not stay on certain surfaces for very long. Double check that with your doctor or whoever. Again, I'm not a licensed, I don't have a degree in that area, so I'm not really sure. But another quick tip, people who go around cleaning houses and fixing them up, there is going to be a spike in the demand spike for those people. Okay, so if you are without a job, you got some gloves and some masks, brooms, vacuum cleaners, etc., Lysol, you might find yourself a business right there. Next, now let's move on to investors. Those of you who are somewhat passive, all right, and you're looking at crowd funds and REITs, I would gear more towards commercial buildings that rent to government agencies, data centers, medical housing that have triple net lease. So that this way it's less stressful, and in a time like this, you really don't want to deal with too much. Okay? So if you're going to go that route, look into that. Otherwise, I would say maybe you want to hold off a little bit if you don't have a whole lot of extra cash. Next, as far as the market is concerned, because I know many of you invest in the market so that you can have money for a down payment. Another quick tip, look at who the government is giving the stimulus to. I doubt very much they would give a stimulus package to businesses who they think are going to fold. So even though their prices may be in the negative right now, it's possible that in the future it's going to turn around. So you may not want to disqualify all of those companies. Next, many seasoned investors, they take this time when the market is down to invest in less risky assets, such as mortgage-backed securities, bonds. They tend to do pretty well in down markets, as well as take the gamble and say, okay, well, this company, they're not doing so good, but they've been around for years. They got a stimulus package. Hey, we might let us rethink and see if they fit well in our portfolio. So that's a little tip. Again, not a licensed broker, just my opinion. Okay, folks? So that wraps it up. That's all I have for you. Remember, guys, we as a people of the world, we have a history of victory. We will get through this. We will overcome this. Pray for your loved ones. Hold them tight. Hold them close. Pray for everyone in the world, particularly our heroes on the front line, which are our nurses, which are the grocery store people, which are also our police officers, as well as our firemen and all the other people out there. Please feel free to pass this along. Remember, each one, reach one, teach one. Bye for now. Until next time, have a good night.